Jesper, welcome. Good to have you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
And good to see you. It's actually been a while since we caught up, so.
It's been.
Yeah.
Which was pre-COVID, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah. I mean, the COVID period, I've said so many times, is like a...
Time warp.
Time warp. Those 2 years don't exist for me, so...
I think we talked... actually I remember 20 spring when people were in the COVID, so that we were still trying to figure out, and we were also confident. Let's just do this and let's do ghost kitchens there, and we're just gonna be it's gonna be no worries, and we're gonna be tackled through this, and then 3 months later everybody's like,
it's amazing how much energy we had.
Yeah, I mean,
when you think back,
yeah,
and we're like, okay, this is gonna be a short thing. We'll get through this 3-4 months. We'll come up with some new business concepts, and it'll be all good. And then 2 years later, we're all 25 kilos less. Look like we've had cancer.
Yeah.
It's like we're worn out.
I remember, I remember saying to my team, like, okay, let's bite the bullet, but then we'll have summer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we'll have summer.
Yeah,
like, imagine
exactly.
that, guys. It's
exactly trying to keep everyone motivated and everything as well.
But I think that was like what everybody was striving for. But that obviously that was like
exactly
impossible.
100%.
But then again, when it hit, like just before Christmas, or then it for the first time, like, of course, only affected my new business. Mm-hmm. So having to put one business, or shut one business, opening another one up, and putting all of your energy there, and then when you're by the end of the year, you're like, God, yeah, we made it. So now we can just go home, have Christmas, rest for the year, and then we're gonna start the next year with a bang. And then you actually have to call everybody just before Christmas and be like, here's your Christmas gift, here's a bottle of gin, and here's your papers for UTK.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's
how it was.
Yeah, I mean, but the last one was by far the worst for me. I mean, the first one was difficult because it was you didn't know how to handle it really, and then I lost so much, which I didn't realize at the moment, like how much of my, I'm not sure what the word for it is, but like part of my identity, what I do day to day, like the purpose of my daily routines just wasn't there anymore. Yeah,
well, so much of like our industry, we're kind of on these like train tracks, right? So every day we're always just like pumping the wheels on the same tracks, and you get into this rhythm. That's why we don't take vacations.
Yeah.
Getting back from vacation, it's so hard to get back on those rails and trying to figure out that flow. And we have like long hours and high stress environment.
Yeah.
So when you go like up and down through something like COVID, it's so hard to stay on track.
You ever get that feeling when you go on vacation? It's like, man, I have such good momentum going. Why do I do this now?
It's awful.
I have all of this and this. I mean, I have so much ideas now. Like, we should have done it. And then you're like, no, relax. You're on vacation now. And then when you get back, your ideas are already like, you've forgotten about it, or like you feel like you lost all of your momentum. And then it's just like, fuck.
100%. You spend 3 months getting back that momentum and those ideas, and 100%.
Yeah.
So I want to, for the listening purpose, I want to introduce you a little bit and talk a little bit about kind of your history in the industry. You've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think your biggest project historically is Hanko Sushi, right?
Yeah.
Cool. But talk a little bit about where you started pre-Hanko Sushi, and then kind of how you got up to that.
Pre-Hanko Sushi, like, I'll take this all the way back.
Cool.
First of all, one of my first like restaurant experiences that I remember that I really enjoyed was in the old town of Porvoo at a cafe.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because my grandmother's like from here, so like we used to visit.
That's interesting.
A lot. So, but I remember like a small bottle of Sprite. I remember the smell of coffee, and then I remember like this big voisilmapulla thing, and then like from those, then I always wanted to come back. And I remember like when I was older, I didn't want the Sprite or the pulla as much. I wanted the feeling,
Yeah.
The kind of the ambience and all of that, and it took me
the warm hug that is hospitality.
And that was for me, that was like it took me a while until I understood like that's how big of a part that also is about the industry. I mean, like you think when you're a young cook, you're just thinking, okay, if I make good food, it's gonna be enough. It's like, dude, that's like a third, you know. And it should be a given if you're have a restaurant that the product should be good.
Yeah.
Unless you're like in a central railway station somewhere, you can just
pump out whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, and I was the kid who had like, of course, different Lego sets, everything from like Robin Hood to, a pirate ship. But I also had a restaurant. So
a restaurant,
like a Lego restaurant. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, and I remember like my mom totally fucking up the interior, putting the stickers the wrong way. So like it said restaurant, but it was like up and down because she didn't realize how it was going, and she was like, the helping parent being like, I'm gonna help you with these stickers because you're too little and you're gonna screw it up.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, shows what you know. But anyway, like part of me always was going for, like, I was the kid who were playing, of course, Ninja outside, but also like playing restaurant inside and having pop-up restaurants for my parents when I was like 10 years old or even I think even younger, like my first ones, but kind of like when you're just playing role playing at home. So it was kind of I don't want to say like a given that it was an interest of mine for sure, but how should I say, my other passion has always been sports. And haven't ever really decided what sport I'm gonna do because they're all the ones I like, I just do them kind of like without any specific goal. It's just if it gives you joy, you just want to do it. So basically those are the two things I also studied, was like culinary school and then sports.
Okay.
So when I was like, of course, I think I was like, basic 16, 17 when I went to culinary school and then studied there. Mm-hmm. But then again, I was a really young dad as well. So I was like in my 20s when I knew I'm going to get my daughter.
Oh, wow.
So then I also realized quite fast that if I want to do the other things in life, I should maybe find a different line of profession. So I was like, okay, I owe it to myself that, all right, I'm gonna go and study sports. So I started working at the restaurant industry, of course, through school when I was just like under 18. Mm-hmm. But then again, started also studying sports when, 20s too. And I actually, when I finished up that school, I was like 24, 23, 24 probably. And at that time, I worked, of course, a bit around Helsinki, but I was never kind of the child prodigy, like cook or chef that's gonna be, I had no interest of going to like work at Savoy or Palace or like a French bistro or a la carte thing.
Yeah.
I don't really know, probably like because of my also background being born and raised in Vantaa, and this is like late 90s, early 2000s, so the restaurant industry wasn't, or the restaurant scene wasn't like as how should I say, as close
as vibrant.
Yeah, I mean it was just like hotel kitchens and then a few other ones.
Yeah.
So I remember when I did my internships in culinary school, I definitely wanted to go on my last year to make sushi or make something totally different, and that was my first touch basically on sushi. And one of those things are like, as I said, I like sports and I like doing stuff. So for me, always cutting stuff was super fun.
Yeah.
So, there, you have the same instrument all the time, and, you use that for the most and for everything. So for me, it was like, how should I say, really cool and in that way natural.
But sushi wasn't like a big thing here at that time,
No, this was like 2003.
Yeah, so how did you discover sushi? Like you just...
For the first time?
Decided raw fish was like your thing, or?
No, I think it was like, I really wanted to try something that, like, I knew it was my last internship, so I know also it's the last time I can kind of like, do whatever. Sure. So why shouldn't I do something that's totally different from the rest that I'm learning?
Yeah.
So, and then I really liked it because, I mean, sushi is so, how should I say? It's in a way, it's kind of like simple, but it's so precise. So then again, like the reasons like behind good sushi is of course like ingredients, and then it's really skill based. So, and you can't really lie on, you can't just put a sauce on top and be like, hey, you know, it's supposed to look like that, or, you know, you can't hide your mistakes in the same way.
Yeah, you can't slice the fish into ripped up chunks of pieces and then be like, yeah, it's a good cut.
Yeah.
Because there's no lie.
Exactly. And if rice is like 70-80% of it, it's like, you know, you have to be good at that. You have your base of what you're doing has to be good. So you have to kind of respect the process all the way through. Did
you get some kind of like overseas experience or exposure to sushi?
Yeah, that was like that was much later on though. But,
okay.
But at that place we also had a pretty international kitchen where I was doing the internship then, and then I worked a bit here and there during my studying time. But you know, I had did your basic caterings and what are like rental companies when you just go somewhere, and I did one summer at Linnanmäki.
Kind of like these VMP. You just kind of get thrown wherever you end up. And for people not from Finland, they're like staff rental agencies.
Yeah. So you always know you're in for a shit show when you know.
Yeah, because you usually end up in some understaffed location with very low skill level, base skill level, and
yeah, there might be one or two guys who know what they're doing, but they're so overwhelmed with work already and stressed, and then you know you just feel sorry for them and don't want their misery to be any deeper.
Yeah.
But that, and then I worked for like, which was for me like a big thing. Like during my studying time, I worked at this one entrepreneur, this lady who was, I think she was under 40, like at that time, and she had a cafe in Espoo, pretty close to where I moved, and it was by the beach. So like working with her for, I think I worked like 4 years, or like 4 summers and then weekends.
Okay.
So it's just, you know, how do you say, a fairly simple cafe.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like, how should I say, to understand how a restaurant or like how a business really works was from her.
So so that was your first exposure to like the actual inside running of the restaurant business.
Yeah, I mean, all from calculating in Espoo, and all from like calculating, like, you know, what's the take of the day.
Yep.
So I was basically in charge of like lunch.
Yep.
And of course it came pretty naturally for me to also do a lot of other stuff. You know, just make sure that everything's running as it should.
Yep.
But that then probably also like considering my dad working for the same construction company for 30 and something years, which was also like a family-owned business.
Yeah.
So I kind of like always respected that if you work for somebody, you kind of like, you know, give them all and, you know, you make it work
commit
together.
To it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just kind of like trying to milk it, but really like commit to it and do it as good as possible.
Something that really is scarce.
Yeah.
In today's employment world.
Yeah, I got told that already. Like I think it was my second summer or something, and then some of the customers like, just you're weird.
You've been here more than a year. Yeah, but it's amazing how the industry's changed over the last, you know, man, even 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
But if you stretch that timeline out to like 10, 15 years,
yeah,
you don't recognize what's going on. No. Like it's a totally different world now.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things. Well, for our position is just keeping up with those trends because they change constantly, right?
Yep.
But sushi in Finland, from what I understand, like 10 years ago, was a huge trend. Oh. Especially like on the buffet side, sushi buffets and stuff had started coming out, and
that was like they started coming like 2013, 14.
Yeah. Okay.
More.
Yeah.
Like that's when it really. That kind of started. We started Hanko in 2009.
Oh, okay, that long ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, interesting fact was like, you know, we're looking at 2 locations, and one of them was at Uudenmaankatu, and the other one was this old, like glassware shop in Omena.
Okay.
And the guys, like I just heard this story, like when they told this to me, like later on, that you know, they of course they chose the one in Omena, But the one they looked at Uudenmaankatu in 2010 turned to be Sushi Bar at Wine.
Oh, interesting.
It is, yeah, and like, cause they're like, I think they're roughly like 6 or 9 months apart or something.
Yeah.
But then again, they're like totally different from the get go already. Like,
yeah, that's right. Totally different models entirely.
Yeah, and then it's like the other place you can actually sell wine, but the other one's takeaway potential is like, how should I say, enormous, like endless, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially that time when there wasn't that place. I remember like in Espoo, there were like 3 places doing it, and this was when like Eat.fi was still like a thing that you could go and look at restaurants like way before you could use Volt as your restaurant Google.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember there's like 3 places, and now there's just like within, I don't want to lie, but I think it was now it's like within, I want to say 150 meters. There's a buffet, of course, a sushi buffet, a Hanko Sushi. Both of the supermarkets have their own places.
With sushi inside, like the Sushi Take and Sushi Daily and stuff like that.
Exactly, and then a Sushi Bar at Wine, and then also like kind of like a Pokeball or sushi burrito places.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, if something changed in 10 years, so like that for sure.
Yeah.
And I remember when people are always asking, hey, do you think, like, when does this trend end, And then I said, like, no, it came here to stay. And there was like, nah, we see in this, it comes and goes, but, it doesn't never really stick. I was like, okay. All right.
Yeah, well, I think because it's not just it's not a single trend that it's following either.
Yeah.
It's also this kind of focus around healthy eating or fresh eating as well, which is, even though there's a lot of calories to sushi, but still people see it as like a fresher product than going and eating like a fried noodle buffet or something like this. So it's kind of following two trending upswings in a way. It's not just one. So Hanko Sushi started 2009 already, which I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah.
And then how many locations do they have now?
I'm really sorry, you have to Google that, but I want to say like 25.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Because we had more, but like, of course, the business has changed and shifted a lot. And then, of course, COVID didn't do any good and, market anyway. I would say like the whole restaurant business was, for the past like 10 years, it was like on steroids. Like think what kind of rent we have to pay.
Yeah, it's
like
insane.
Come on.
Insane.
I pay like a fifth what I paid at Stockman now. And imagine the location, how big it is now. So yeah. So exactly. I'm hoping like if something good comes out of the COVID, that at least we would calm it down a bit.
Yeah,
on that.
Yeah. I'm hoping the same. I think landlords need to kind of get back on the same page.
Yeah, exactly.
They're reading a totally different book.
So. I mean, I would rather pay people more, like the staff more.
100%.
And then, of course, if you're doing good, of course you can pay more.
Yeah,
but if you're not, so then it's like
exactly because the expense ratios are changing.
Yeah.
And every year you just watch one number go up, and you watch the ability of what you can pay people go down.
Yeah.
And the other thing you see go down is your profit. So it's like, and every year, like, especially because our consumer demand in Finland is quite stagnant. So I find that we don't really have a drive to increase base level prices. The good thing is that the lunch seems to be going up, and that's with the help of the lunch voucher, which is shout out to Ed and Red for upping it, because it's important for us.
Yeah,
it means that we can start charging $11.30 instead of $10.90, and that 40 cents makes a big difference.
But it's every year the same 20.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I remember 2009 was when we started. We had staff was like, I think we were 5 when we opened up.
Okay.
And we had 12 seats in 2009. And by 14, no, I want to say 13, but 2013, I think we had like 10, and I don't remember how much staff, but like
enough, yeah.
At that point. But then of course, like later on, I remember like when we had over 12, that was like kind of, or like 20, that was for me like, okay, like from those 12,
yep,
and those 5 we started with, you kind of like cherish the things that you know you did right. And then of course it's kind of like it's cool to be a part of like something growing at that rate and to be able to like scale a restaurant.
What was how did you get kind of introduced to Hanko Sushi, or well, like how did that kind of relationship start?
That was a bit of an accident, really, because I just started. As I said, I studied to get out of the business for the most, but then I needed a kind of more like a steady job to get some bills paid, and then and of course having a daughter at that time already. But so it was, I think in 2009, if I remember correctly, I had like my tax card was in 11 different companies that paid me that year.
Okay.
So I was kind of aching for some stability.
Yeah.
So, so at the Sports Institute I studied at, I did some work for them there, and then I worked at a gym, and then like, okay, so Hanko could be kind of my 9 to 5 or like my steady thing. And when I went into it, I really remember saying already at the job interview that of course I have some experience in this, and I have experience of like running a restaurant or restaurant business, but I don't want any responsibility. I just want to clock in and clock out. Yeah, so that didn't really work out, but but it was.
You became the main restaurateur for Hanko Sushi, right? Yeah. So your duties involved everything from staffing to daily operations to sourcing new locations. Was that also on your list?
That was not really.
Okay.
Like those like the guys behind Hanko, so they were like really brilliant in the sense that they weren't from the industry at all.
Okay.
So they had a total different eye for it as well, which was like good.
Yeah.
So it gave me and the rest of the team also how do you say it, like freedom, or like we only had to look out for the location we were running and doing the best
and
we
then
could.
they would source locations and sort out renovations and
again, because those guys were like hands-on, so they were renovating themselves.
Cool.
So like they were also the kind of entrepreneurs at that time, especially like that they would, if you need help, you could always call them. You could have them wash dishes for you if like
if it got to that.
Yeah, if it got to that.
That's cool.
So it was like I hope I didn't call them too many times, but like I do remember like it was at least a feel like that, and cool. We were doing it like, at least for me, it felt that we were definitely doing it like together.
Yeah.
And by the time I think we reached 2013, then I started feeling like, okay, I've been doing this for a while, and I think I kind of made my like decision that okay, this is the path I'm gonna take. I'm gonna just do this. Like I did that probably at 2011, because like you know when you work at some restaurant or doing something and you're like, okay, we're onto something different, something special here, so we need to
Yeah, well, you see it in the kind of customer patterns. You see it with repeat customers. You see it with the constant feedback, and
come to the energy you have already. It's gonna be like, you're like, okay, there's something here.
Exactly. And
we were blessed with good staff. Of course, we had some that weren't, but the core team was quite good.
Yeah.
And I think it was like in 2011 I said like, okay, I can take this location but I want to do it like this. And this was like I kind of like held my ground in the way that I want to get paid this. I want these guys to get this. But I mean, or kind of like I want to do this, but I will need this from you. Yeah. So then I can execute this.
Yeah.
So for me, that was also like highly motivating, because then I had to show them.
And you felt supported also. When they agreed to that, you're like, okay, cool. We're all moving in the same direction, and that's so important from the start of a project.
Exactly.
Especially one that you want to grow to multiple locations.
Yeah.
Because the steam runs out. You need to constantly fuel the fire. And if you have partners that are moving in the same direction, and you have a team that's moving in the same direction, it only helps the energy levels.
I would agree, and it also like in this industry, it's really important you find a way how you can motivate yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I had also, okay, 1 more location, 6 more months, 12 more months.
Yep.
And it wasn't like, okay, in 12 months I'm going to quit. It was more like, in 12 months I need to change my perspective of everything. I need to have a different goal.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you kind of almost have to set yourself personal KPIs.
Exactly.
Right. And just like stagger them over a year, stagger them over 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. For entrepreneurs, because a lot of the people that listen to this, I think are like new starting entrepreneurs. And sometimes when the stress level gets high, the motivation drops, and it's almost like it's intrinsic. Yeah. So having those like personal KPIs, because they're not goals, because I think I like to set goals on a personal level, and I set KPIs on a business level. It's just the way in which I utilize the language in my own head that says like, this is private and this is grinding, this is work focus. And then, for people that just write down like, okay, this is the 3-month goal, 6-month goal, or 6-month KPI, 12-month KPI. And then, as you said, I think that's awesome advice, is to go, this is where I'm going to readjust. Yeah. At this point, 4 locations, that's where I'm going to readjust.
And because, like, even though you have a goal, always like long term. So for like the bigger things in your life, you never know when it's going to happen necessarily. It's like, I use skateboarding often as an example, only like not for myself, or going to the gym is also a good one. You don't know at what time you're going to hit that weight you're going after. You might get injured, you might, get sick, you might from some reason miss out on practice. And when it comes to like skateboarding again, it's like you have to figure out the way of doing it, but you have to accept, like in the beginning, you're going to be clumsy, you're going to be awkward, you're going to look like shit. You gotta have people like laughing at you, or like, at least, giving a small like, huh, so but that same goes to like also your work life, or like life in general. So you have to like have goals, and then you have to every now and then question like, am I doing the right things? Like, am I with the right people? Who can I ask? Am I being honest with myself? That's like one of the biggest things I think for people, is like they're not honest with themselves either, like where they are. And for me, like one of the biggest, like I was searching for motivation. And I remember like I was taking good care, like well cared of at Hanko. And I talked to one of the owners, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm kind of like, I need something. And then he was like, just trying to get in my head, like, what, dude, like, what is it with you? What, you want money again? I was like, no, it's just nothing to do with that. I just need, like, I need something. Yeah. And basically, I remember, like, in that slump I had was, then well, for instance, I had a knife. I had a kitchen knife, which I cut fish with. When I knew it, with that knife, I had cut fish that I sold €1 million with.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Then I knew it, like, okay, then it's like, I'm just gonna use this on special occasions. Yeah. This is like mine. I mean, I still have it, but it's like, that knife. Yeah. So, but yeah, after that, then I was like, okay, I want to fly to Japan. I want to learn. I want to know like the basics of everything. I want to be taught by somebody else than people that just get the secondhand information. Yeah. Because those we have a lot. Oh, and especially that time. Well, this one time I was in Japan, and they served me this, and this is not like that. And I was like, okay. Yeah. I don't know how that's relevant, but okay.
I get that all the time.
Yeah. So then at this point, as I said, I was broke after I studied, but at this time I had some savings, and then I was lucky enough to also, I did commentating for the snowboards at Sochi in 2014. So that was also a good kind of, extra money, which you can get on this like side.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and then
something different.
Yeah, and then of course the owners pitched out a bit, and then of course at this time I already got myself a credit card, which I was definitely gonna max out as soon as I land, which I did. But Yeah, so then I went, contacted people, used also the contacts I had within the industry, like, the biggest ones would have been Kikkoman.
Yep.
And, they supported me a lot throughout the years, like,
okay.
Not like financially as much, but, getting information that you need or like hooking you up with the right people.
Yeah.
So then they arranged some contacts for me, and then I basically asked everybody who had something to do with Japan, do you know anybody, where should I go, and blah, blah, blah. But so I did kind of a program for me there, and I was lucky enough to get some practice in with this third generation sushi chef or sushi master, Mr. Norisan. So he was, so I did some sushi at there, and and this, most of it was at the Tokyo Sushi Academy, which is kind of like, there.
The place to go.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially like if you're foreigner or like a Westerner, that would be the only place that they would be able to speak English for you.
Got you.
Or with you.
Got you.
So that was there. So
cool.
And then traveled Japan, bought knives, ate a lot. I think I was like the third week into having the taste of vinegar and mackerel in your mouth, and at that time I was like, it's maybe time for something else.
Yeah. For people that are traveling to Japan, what was your favorite spot?
Well, my secret lover for that trip was definitely like the street food game, the yakitori places and the izakayas. Like, that was, for me, it was something I really didn't expect. And one of the beauties,
like the quality of it, or
like, the food quality in general was like, that was surprisingly good. But then again, like, just the way they did it and how simple yet like flavorful everything is, that was, and the way they eat is also like, I just love the fact that, instead of just going out drinking, you just, you eat and then you drink, or then the other way around.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. And then because you can have really good food basically whatever hour of the day.
Yeah. So the food is like a huge part of the whole experience. Yeah. Even for locals, it's like what you just said. It's not just about going out with your friends and drinking. There's always a food component or a culinary component too.
Yeah, they never drink without eating, which was like, especially for Finnish people, something they should maybe learn. Well, I mean, we do eat and drink, but that's usually like summertime when you're like,
or
grilling.
you just get to that point in the night where you're like, man, I really have to eat something.
Yeah. It's done.
Yeah.
That or Christmas table, but yeah, that was like one of the most surprising things for me in that trip, because like I was also naive in the way, and you have to remember this was also almost like 10 years ago. So the exposure of like Instagram and YouTube was around, but you really didn't have the same amount of. Nowadays you can go online and you can just stroll around Tokyo if you want to.
Exactly.
But at that time you couldn't really. You could do a little like Google Earth thing, like Street View stuff, but that was basically it.
And nothing like today. You can get like 3D views, and you can like you can do this whole thing where you like swoop in all the way down. It's insane.
But but one thing I did like deliberately, which I really thank myself for, was also like, of course I had a program where to go and so on, but I really didn't get too much information beforehand about Tokyo or Japan. I mean, I learned manners and how to conduct at business meetings and so on, but then again, like, because I really wanted the culture shock, because that was what I heard, like, when people move there, that it's so different. And for me that was because in a way I wanted it to be overwhelming, because I knew I can only go one time there for the first time and like really get lost.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
that's a good way of seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, and we really landed that one, because like we flew to Tokyo to Narita.
Yep.
And then we directly took a bullet train to Osaka, which like, if you think about it, it doesn't make any sense, because you could just fly right to Osaka.
Yep.
But for some reason, like, that was the way we had to do it. So, and the flight leaves like at 5 in the evening. So, and it lands like 3 or 4 in the morning. but then again it's morning there already, so you kind of you miss the whole a night, and then you instantly take a bullet train to the other side of Japan, and then you have to find your hotel. And at that time, for the first time on the trip, you realize, nobody's speaking English. There's no signs in English.
Yeah.
You don't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You don't know where your hotel is. You have a few printed, documents, which you got from like this internet cafe you went into, and then you're like coming out of there, and you're like, which way's north? It's probably that way. And then you walk for I think we walked like 2 hours or something.
End up circumnavigating Osaka.
More or less, we were just super lost. And at that point, you're so jet lagged, you're so tired.
Yeah.
And I remember like I was trying to have this, because also smart as I am, I also took in new shoes on the trip that was really, which were really cool.
Yeah, you want blisters.
Yeah, exactly. And turns out the shoes wasn't that good of a fit.
Yeah. Oh.
So yeah. So.
But they look cool. So.
Yeah. Which they looked cool for about 2 hours on that trip, and that was it. But yeah, having blisters on my feet, being totally lost, and nobody speaking English, then of course we found a way to communicate to a cab driver who took us to the hotel, and then we got Wi-Fi, a few hours of sleep in, and then then the adventure started.
Sounds like a good trip.
Yeah, it was. How should I say? You learned a lot.
Yeah. So the Hanko business model, when it was kind of kicking off, what was the initial focus? Was it quality over quantity, quality of seafood? What was the model?
For Hanko, the first place I worked at 2003. One thing that I would say was the biggest difference between that place and Hanko was I couldn't stand how salmon nigiri tasted the first time I had it in 2003, because it was horrible.
Okay.
Explain
the flavor a little bit.
How should I say, super much vinegar, not much else, and then kind of a fish that's a bit suspect, you feel a bit unsafe even eating it.
Okay.
I mean, we got it pre-cut there, and people really didn't a part of them knew what they were doing, but kind of the managing of the place, where at that time still, compared to what we learned afterwards, was different. And I'm not saying everything they did was horrible.
Yeah.
But it was a totally different ball game already in 2009, and of course what everybody had learned during that period. Yeah. You knew what you have to go different. So it was especially as I said, the guys owning Hanko was definitely they wanted to do good, because as I said, they came outside of the industry, so they didn't kind of even realize in the way what they were asking. They had kind of the customer point of view, which was for me super frustrating at times, but then again it was super good, because that's exactly where your focus has to be.
Yeah,
and that's true, something that people who just work the kitchen often forget about.
For the newbies that don't, just eat at sushi buffets.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit about the difference of bad quality sushi and good quality sushi.
Well, the first is always the rice.
Okay.
It has to be in balance with the rest. It's.
You mean texture-wise, or
texture and flavor, of course.
Okay, yeah.
So it's always a good nigiri should, when you put it in your mouth, it should always just kind of explode, or it should basically melt. You should never have to really chew.
Okay.
The rice.
So the rice should be soft and fluffy, or is it more creamy?
I would.
I'm just trying to kind of get a description of texture.
If you open a good one, a good nigiri, or a maki, you could always see the rice being separate. Because when it's separate in your mouth, it goes under your lip, under your gums, basically all around.
Yeah.
And that will create the umami, or the everything about it.
Okay.
So when you have that happening in your mouth, that's your number one flavor for whatever you're having. So the rice is there to enhance the flavor of the ingredients you're having.
Got you. Okay, so excuse my ignorance.
No.
Is there any addition to the rice, or is it just plain rice?
No, of course, you have to have the right type of rice.
Okay,
and then you have to have rice vinegar.
Yep.
And to which you flavor according to what you're going to use it to.
Got you. Okay.
And then the other kind of like tell is always like you should always flavor your soy sauce accordingly to your vinegar. So they have to be in balance, because if they're in balance, then you're
like salt to acidity kind of. Yeah, okay.
So, and nothing should ever, like a good rice should taste like rice and vinegar.
Okay.
Okay. So it should have flavor.
Yeah.
And the original flavor as well.
Okay. That makes sense.
Because when you combine that with something with a bit of horseradish, or your wasabi powder, and then the fish.
Has it been hard to, because from Momotoko's perspective, one of the things that I focus on a lot is trying to maintain a consistency in quality throughout the expansion. Was that something that was hard for Hanko as you guys grew so fast? Was it hard to maintain that exact flavor profile that you're explaining?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't really matter how good of instructions you give, especially nowadays you can have like videos for everybody. And
so how did you get around? What was your method to get around that?
I mean, because when we were smaller, it was also like easy to always like train the people who's going to be in charge of the next place properly, and then you kind of manage them and make sure they, teach it the right way also, and make sure that they are they're in charge of the quality.
Got you. So you're pre-educating like the manager for the next location, and they're in charge of then trickling down their education to them people.
Yeah, and of course you have this, and which I did for years, was like I drove around a lot.
Yep.
And then
checking places. And
yeah. Like
that gets hard after like 7-8 locations.
Oh yeah. I mean
when you're doing like 10-12 locations.
Yeah, and it's also like like you don't want to micromanage, or like I wouldn't want to micromanage too much. But then again, like every now and then you have people who really want to just do their own thing, and then you're kind of like being like I mean, I love your enthusiasm, but you have to stick to the recipes.
Yeah.
Like you can talk to people how you want to, basically, but like please.
Yeah.
Like,
and when you're visiting location, you only have a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're just like, all right, I'm going to point this out to him this time. Next time I come, I'll focus on this. Next time I come, I'll focus on that.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're micromanaging, even though you have like a plan or a strategy on how you're going to improve that individual.
Yeah.
But it can definitely be, I think that's one of the most challenging things for me, is looking about how we expand in a way that is both healthy for the business and healthy for the employees, because there's this balance between how much pressure we put on the people that are passionate about working with us and are moving into management positions and upper management positions.
Yeah.
And how much pressure we put on those people to kind of support the business development long term, versus things like profit and the bottom line, effectively, because you can add lots of people to the opening of a location, but that makes it unprofitable.
Oh yeah.
Right. So even though you can cover those issues by adding staff or adding equipment or whatever it might be, you're also increasing costs. So it's a kind of fine balance, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I could like almost pinpoint when we were opening a new shop that it's gonna tank because we had the wrong staff there. Like, or then it got turned around. It's
that's killer. When you open a location, you're like,
yeah,
I've got to. This has got to start again.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good track record, like not actually being able. I mean, not. Having like successful ones for a long time, but then again we had a few misses.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, we had a really good rate coming. Like we had good people working with us, but of course in everybody's own team it's always more difficult.
For sure.
And what we did get sold when we were like 5 years old.
Okay,
or something.
So was that like
2014?
14. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, right after my Japan trip and all of that, then we got into like kind of a big house, and that was also like for me like a huge shock. But going back, we can go back to that in a bit. But going to every location and how you manage the people there, because it's still a people business.
Yeah.
And that was for me like the reason why like was so successful, and like because we were doing something special to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, the guys gave us kind of like a setting to perform good and an idea what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And then, but we took it from there.
Okay.
And then I remember like saying, because when we were discussing like, you know, how many hours we can use per day, and I was saying like, okay, I mean, that's never going to work, you know. And then having to fight those things, and then try to explain to them also like, you know, everybody's so in that this is our restaurant. I mean, you can own it, but like this is our place.
Yeah.
You know, this is, you know, everybody identifies them already, like the whole team that, you know, and we're going to make this work. It's going to be. So that's like, and how should I say, motivation in that team was also like a big thing going on. And we had that at many locations in the beginning. But as you said, when you grow, it always comes with the issue also, like at what time it starts growing the other way. Kind of like, okay, this is just a chain, or like...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you try to maintain this like non-chain mentality throughout the team and also throughout the branding and stuff, because even though it looks like a chain from the outside, when you're in the situation, you're in the business, it doesn't feel like a chain.
Nope.
Like every single restaurant feels so personal and so private, and like, you know, you can't get out of the mentality. What you said that just there is really interesting for me, because it's something I really try hard to do and maintain with my management strategy, is provide a direction and a platform, and then let a little bit of creativity take over from the individual I give it to.
Yeah. I
think it's a much more effective way of developing a team that's not committed, but that's driven to the same goal as what the company's trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's the only way you could be a team. If you have a common goal.
100%.
And that's the whole thing. Like if everybody's like within the team, their KPIs would be like, you know, in 3 years, I want to be here, or I want to learn how the business works. And you have to always like remember that you're just gonna have them on your team for a few years, and you have to let them grow.
Yeah. The hard part of that in our industry, though, is we have so many people that aren't focused on being here long term.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get those people, you know, invested into what you're trying to achieve, even if they're there for like a 3-month period, even if they're there for a summer, even if they're there just until they get their job in IT, whatever it might be. You're trying to get them involved in what you're trying to achieve. And I still think the best way to do that is to leave a little bit of openness to creativity and a little bit of openness to, you know, suggestion of change from managers, not just from managers, but also from employees as well.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Like most of the people who come in the industry are also young. You know, and I remember when I was like young, so how should I say, like I really respect and appreciate everybody who had the tolerance with me, who taught me, and also like gave me the opportunity to learn. So for me, it was also like I wanted to, when people were working for Hanko, I wanted when they leave, that they would leave kind of like that the experience there was something valuable for them. Yeah. Because like the best experience, like job experiences I had before that, I valued the experience like way over the money, because it took me somewhere I wanted to be in the long run.
Totally agree.
So
my whole career is built on that.
Yeah.
My whole career is built on. I don't think I've, in very very few cases, I've asked about salary or wage or remuneration. It's just been about, okay, working with this person is going to allow me to learn more about this, or working in this, you know, group is going to give me an opportunity to be involved in opening new locations.
And you never know kind of like what you get in return. Like,
exactly, 100%.
And you know, how should I say, like, and especially like we keep what we have by giving it away. So that whole kind of thing goes like when you're honest and you're just trying to help other guys. Yeah. Like in 3 years they could be, you know, helping you out. I mean, let's say you have somebody who's studying, I don't know, like let's say business now, and he's gonna give you your next bank loan.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in 5 years.
Exactly.
Because you don't know.
No.
And then again, And if he helped you there, it was like,
yeah.
Because I mean, I just came from service, straight from service here, and one of the guests sitting there was this woman who was like working already in the industry when I was doing my first internship when I was like 17, and my God, I was horrible. Like I was so young in the way that, you know, like my attitude and like, how should I say, I wasn't mean or anything, but you know, I don't know really where my focus was.
Yeah.
But she had you know, the nerves and tolerance with me, and I think because otherwise I had kind of like a rough period then, especially there, and I think it was the first year that I was studying.
Yeah.
So I probably would have quit, but she was like, she had the, you know, the, as I said, tolerance,
the patience.
The patience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so like because of her, like she's one of the reasons I'm still in the industry.
When you were working with Hanko, did you think of different ways to kind of, or different educational courses or benefits that you could offer staff to, you know, improve certain areas? Just as an example, recently with Momotoko, we did a management and leadership course, and I gave staff, or like the management that attended, I gave them like certificates, you know, Momotoko diplomas.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and it was just like kind of, it was something that I think that they felt could be applied in any scenario, and it wasn't just specific to Momotoko, but it was something they can utilize, you know, growing their careers. Did you ever think about doing that with Hanko? Was there something you did with them, or?
We kind of did it, of course, but it was it depended a bit on the era. Like the first, like before we were sold, I mean, people got to know the numbers, you know, so you have to understand the numbers and where they're coming from to understand the business, what you're doing, of course. But then again, you can't just say like, you know, you're good because your staff was only like, staff cost was 25%. That's the way. Let's everybody do it like Curtis did this month, and let's give a hand to Curtis.
Yeah.
But you know, the key factors are there, like what are we actually after and how do we achieve it? Yeah,
exactly.
So then what we did for the most, of course, like we had a lot of people coming in to the restaurant where, like in Omen at that time was what was the like main base still.
Yep.
Also because the facilities were a bit bigger, and when we started off, that was also the place where we used to ship all the ingredients all around, because at that time, you know,
that was like your central kitchen.
Yeah, kind of, because you didn't really have like nowadays you can get like sushi rice from any like tukku like that.
Yeah. But
back then it was like you couldn't.
Oh, really. Interesting. Where were you getting it from back then?
Well, we used Sweden a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I mean, you can get anything basically online, and you know
That's true, yeah.
I think like, you know, BV restaurants use like V1 and stuff like Hakaniemi already at that time was a major hub for also Asian food.
Got you.
And then, but of course there was more, but yeah. Anyway, that grew, and eventually, of course, we figured out a better way to get the ingredients around.
Yeah.
But yeah, but coming to actually like teaching people and that, so we had a lot of people coming in there to practice, you know, skills and see how the concept is supposed to work.
Yep. And
then later on, once we got purchased by Royal Ravintolat in 2014, then at that point, of course, we had a lot of these different kind of like courses when it came in, which were then again, most of them was like bought from a school or something.
Yep.
Which was never like quite as personal. But then again, I think we met with every manager like 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
And always on those occasions, we tried to have something.
Yep.
You know, something we can learn from, like, and usually it was like best practices.
Yep.
From different places, just kind of like, you know, collected, or here is where we are now, and here is where we want to be in a year.
Kind of exposing those individuals to what was happening on the collective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
But that's, I mean, it's of course, if you have the same team for a longer period, it's easier. But then again, like in the long run, it's, you know, when it gets big, and as I said, like jumping from the thing that, you know, it's a family-owned restaurant to the thing that, you know, it's a chain.
Yeah.
So personally, for me, like, you know, going to Japan, all of this, and I mean, for me, of course, it was a big thing, but it was also something that we like put in the brand. And I know like that was one of the one of the like main storylines we had, and that was also kind of a part of like, you know, when we got bought, you know, that, you know, we have this and this is where our quality comes from and our knowledge and blah blah blah. But
we've done the back work.
And this was like, at this time we were doing our own blog.
Okay.
And, you know, Facebook and Instagram. And that was like when Instagram was kind of like picking up. You probably know better, but, you know, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to point at him. No. but
the man behind the camera.
Yeah, that man behind the camera probably remembers better that, you know, when 2014, when that started coming about, like before that everybody just had a blog or something.
Yeah.
But then it started kind of like, you know, to be something.
Became more visual than it was.
Yeah.
Like, you know, reading text and
then I remember this was the point I was still, of course, naive also, because like at this time my work experience was for smaller companies, something we did on our own. So I was already aware that if I want to achieve something in life, or I want to achieve something, I have to work for it. I have to do it, and I have to like make sure and push it until it's gonna be somewhere. But then again, suddenly you get to this big house and you're kind of promised, like, you know, hey, you know, we have a marketing department, we have this and we have that, and you're like, all right, you know.
Sweet.
Yeah, good. So I'm just gonna basically turn off my social media now. I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna wait, and there's somebody else figured this out for me already.
Yeah.
Which, like, isn't the way it works.
No.
It's the same when you have a manager or somebody who wants to be better at Momotoko, probably gonna be and tell you like, you know, hey, you know, this and this is, you know where I want to be. It's like, well, start doing it.
Yeah.
You know, don't ask me for like 3.5K like salary.
And then you expect to be handed to you.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Like if you can first, I mean, it sounds, I know it can sound brutal when you're younger that, you know, you have to work for it before you can get it. Of course, if you're like 100% entrepreneur and you come from like that, you have to work for free for a long time to have it. But when you already work for a company and you know you can give, you kind of still want kind of, you know, as in an advance. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the way the working industry in itself has changed entirely.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm really lucky. All of our staff are, you know, we have a really good team at Momotoko, and we have a lot of people that, you know, are looking to grind and learn and develop, and not just for themselves but for the company, and we're really lucky that way.
Yeah.
But hey, I want to talk about Shinobi.
All right.
Because Shinobi's a really interesting thing for me. You know, of course, we're kind of competitors, but kind of not. But, you know, I speak with a lot of people, you know, for those people watching Shinobi.
Oh, yes.
I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and, you know, entrepreneurship here is very different to Australia. And, you know, there's this huge, like, you know, he's a competitor, so, you know, I'm not going to talk to him, or I'm not going to deal with him. And we spoke about this in Stockman as well. Yeah. But, like, I don't understand where this came from.
No.
And, you know, like, we compete, but, you know, it doesn't matter. The more ramen that there is, the more customers that are exposed to ramen and exposed to Japanese food, and the better. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's pointless trying to think that we're fighting over the same customer, because we're not.
Yeah, that's the biggest or like the dumbest thing about it.
100%.
And then of course there's like lines you don't cross. Like you don't copy paste the other guy's like recipe. You don't go after his staff aggressively.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a natural thing, it's fine. But then again, you have to be honest about it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why it's important that we know each other.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's gonna be stupid bad blood because of no reason.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like being competitors, it's like I would say your competitor if, let's say, you're at a beach trip at a tourist location, and you have 5 Italian restaurants next to each other. That's competing.
Yeah.
Then you're like,
exactly. Yeah.
But then again, like
you got to make sure your signboard is a little bit further out than the other guys.
Yep, you have to have 2 guys more flipping there, you know.
But you know, because it's interesting, you know, we see what the word competitor is something that can affect you negatively.
Yeah.
Right. So you either win or lose. It's the idea of competition. So, but we don't see Volt and Foodor as competitors, even though they negatively affect the way in which we operate.
Oh yeah.
So it's interesting because, right? Because technically we compete on a marketplace which doesn't have physical locations, which isn't, you know, determined by the guy living upstairs above the building, or, you know, whether our shops are 500 meters apart. We compete directly on those kind of platforms. So it's so strange that we all are so open to just being like, oh yeah, of course, I'll take Volt and Foodora, and, you know, we need those delivery platforms. But then I'm like, but I'm not going to go talk to Jesper because he's in the same food category. It's like, what?
No, and I mean, in any case, like, just to know, like, let's say when a year ago, or 2 years ago, somewhere in the time warp, when Kespro was supposed to buy Heino. Yeah. If that deal would have gone through, like, imagine the monopoly that would have had.
Oh, 100%.
So, like, and when it comes to, like,
you want a banana?
Yeah.
This is how much it costs.
Exactly. And this is the whole thing. Like, you know, we can, like, let's say, you know, your ramen machine malfunctions, so you have to start buying it. So where would you get a reference price for the price you're getting offered if you only have one place to ask?
Yeah.
Or if you don't know anybody else.
Exactly.
And what is it like from me that I would be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna trick him to buy it more expensive, because it's not like gonna change that your customers are still gonna come to your location.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, like, if you're doing a bit better or worse, it like how is it like anything from me?
Exactly.
You know, I don't get it. It's petty.
So Shinobi, now I know you've been in and out of renovations.
Yeah.
And, you know, also you kind of started at an awkward time with COVID and stuff as well.
Yes.
But what's the idea behind it? You know, where's the inspiration come from? Talk to me about it.
Well, as I said, it's my first, like, how should I say it? The first idea was probably in 2016 after the trip to Tokyo. And then I was thinking, like, okay, I developed Hanko for, you know, a certain, you know, there's places you can take it, but it's, you know, it's going to be, you know, a grown child pretty much soon, or it's in its teens. So, you know, it's going to have its growing pains, but, you know, it's already...
It's plateauing.
Yeah, you know, the you know, there's not so much you could mess around with it at this point. But then again, as I said, I fell in love in Japan also. Like, of course, sushi was one thing, but, you know, the other side of the food culture was something I wanted to take with me. And yeah, to be honest with you, like, what you did with Momotoko was something I already was, you know, we were discussing, and I was planning, like, to do something similar.
Yeah.
But most of our energy was, like, at that time still, like, just, you know, getting the next company sold or somewhere else, or developing Hanko. So the time just wasn't right for it.
Well, it was kind of, because Momotoko was 2015, so you were just going through that acquisition phase. You had, like, huge expectations from the purchaser, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, we had different concepts. We had, like, already, you know, they purchased a pizza place and a Mexican place, and, you know, so it wasn't in that plan, but I wanted to get it in there.
Yeah.
So, which was, like, funny, I remember, because when you took over the Harita place next to Hanko at Jumba, like, cause I was beating myself up a bit, because that was basically what I would have done to that location. And then when it was doing good, it had more customers, like, during lunchtime than Hanko, even though, you know, you have less seats. And then I remember someone was like, yeah, like, we should do something like that. And I was just like, if I would had hair, I would just be pulling it. I was like, you know, kind of tried to tell you, but, you know, but then again, as I said, like, I beat myself up because I maybe wasn't vocal enough at that point of it. But then again, the whole concept I started developing in 2016. So already, like, was Shinobi, but of course not under that name. And then again, when we did Tokyo at Stockman, that was just, like, a part of it, because I already knew, like, what I want to do. It's just going to be depending on what the location is going to be.
Yeah.
So now when a location came that, you know, you could do some grilling, you can have an izakaya, you can have a kind of a bar. It's going to be more like an evening place.
Yeah.
So then definitely from those hazy late nights at Tokyo, like, you know, from my or Japan trips in general, I just wanted to take that with me, because that was something I was really missing, and something, like, I would consider we never really had in Helsinki either.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. And actually, many of my managers come to Shinobi, and they all really enjoy it. And so what's kind of your core product or core focus for Shinobi?
Like core focus, I mean, we're all about social dining.
Yeah. Okay.
In the evening, it is, of course, it's how should I say it? For somebody it might be like exciting and experience. Of course, like we have two or three sides basically to the restaurant. We have the Shokudo side, which is more kind of if you're gonna want to come on a date.
Yep.
You bring your missus and you're gonna be sitting there for like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and have a bit of a longer menu.
Yep.
And then when you come to the izakaya side, then you basically come for a drink first and food seconds.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
Really kind of like more walk-in, like optimum place for kind of an unplanned visit.
Yeah.
Or just after work, you have time. You have time for yourself. That's the place you come.
Have a drink and then you decide, oh, you're hungry and.
Yeah, or the other way around.
Yeah,
you come in and we got you covered.
Yep.
You have good food and good beer and
cool.
Good drinks.
What's your biggest selling product at the moment, or what's the most popular?
I mean, of course, yakitoris are always like big, especially on the Shokudo side. That's been, but then again, for some people, maybe a bit surprisingly, also like the vegetarian stuff, like the miso marinated eggplant has been huge.
Yep.
That's definitely one of them.
Okay.
Miso buttered scallops, amazing. Soy sauce ice cream.
Oh man, sounds good.
That's and then of course like a heap of cocktails when the weekend comes there.
Yeah.
We have some nice stuff there.
Oh, that sounds good. I have to, man. I have to come visit.
You do, of course.
Yeah. I'm heading to Australia at the end of the month for a little trip, so I think I have to come and.
I mean, you have to when you come to the city. Of course, like we're open from Tuesday to Saturday, or the izakaya is open Tuesday to Saturday, and the Shokudo side is Wednesday, Saturday.
From 5 o'clock, right? What time?
4 o'clock, basically.
4 o'clock,
you can come already in the door.
Okay, cool.
So depending on where you want to sit, it depends a bit. But apart from that, it's usually
bookings needed.
Not only on the Shokudo side. Is like it's better if you have a booking because it sells out like.
Okay.
Like I mean, it's been fully booked for the most after we opened.
That's awesome to hear, man.
It is, but then again, thanks. But then again, I have to say, like we've been also like careful with it. Like, you want to find the balance between, because I mean we're so young still. We're on our first year, and we want. I mean, I have a goal with the team, and it is like that everybody leaves happy.
Yep.
Like the staff and the customers, and in that order.
Yep.
So we want to also we want to make sure that everybody has a good, experience during work. Yep. So then you can really give your best to the customers.
Yep.
So if we take too much people in at the same time and trying to be like greedy about it, it backfires for you in the long run anyway. And of course we've done that, and of course we made mistakes about taking because you don't know how the kitchen works, the capacity goes, or how the food is going to go when you have a new menu for the first half a year.
Definitely.
But then you learn.
Definitely.
And then but yeah, make a booking if you want to come on the Shokudo side.
I think I will.
There's of course counter seats and everything that you can, but we squeeze it to the maximum capacity.
I might test it out come 7:30 on Friday and just
be the guy who calls like, hey buddy, I'm here now.
Yeah, exactly. For people that are trying to find Shinobi, what's the link to the Instagram and website?
Instagram is Shinobi Restaurant, and I think website is shinobi.fi.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. No, I'm kidding. But we also just recently did our website again, and of course I know it's the biggest challenge for us is like to communicate with the customers also beforehand, that they understand where they're coming to.
100%.
And we got some great exposure from Helsinki Sanomat in, I believe it was in August.
Yep.
And we got a nice 4-star review for the place, and that's filled up the booking. I mean, we were already at that time, we were fully booked Friday, Saturday for the most, but then again, it also pumped up Wednesday, Thursday. Yep. And you just notice like the week after, like you have a lot of people coming in the door, even though they read the review, but they don't really understand like the place.
Yep.
And I remember we had but before that came out, I said, okay, we're having so much hype behind us now that it's only a matter of time until somebody makes a review. But when it comes out, we have to remember what are we doing here, why, and how we work. Nobody other is going to determine what kind of place we are than we are.
100%.
So we have to remember when we get criticized or asked about stuff, like, this is what we're doing.
Yep.
And not
100%.
like be apologetic and try to change stuff, especially in the beginning phase.
Yeah.
If we don't think it's for the best.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And man, it's a beautiful restaurant, and I'm really, really looking forward to come and eat there. And you know, I have to. We've talked quite a bit now. I want to talk more about Shinobi, but let's do another podcast when you're a few months in, and yeah.
All right.
Check it out. I really enjoyed catching up with you, man. It was really good.
Same.
And yeah, we have to do it again for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.